For our first realistic drawing, we're going to be practicing shading with pencil. We're going to be using the different drawing pencils that you have available at your table, as well as your erasers, and you're going to need a white piece of paper and a black and white photograph. So when you're going to be drawing from observation, you want to really look closely and really study your reference photo and try to transfer as many of these details onto your paper. If you would like an extra challenge, you can try to draw these different shapes freehand. And if you're doing that, you're just going to pick a point to start and try to copy them down as best as you can. If you would like a little bit of a shortcut, you can try doing a graphite transfer, or you can use the light table to trace the outline or the contours of your image and then use your pencils to shade it in. So to do the transfer, what you would do is flip over your photograph. I would take one of the darker colored pencils, so maybe like the 4B, and using the side of the photo, or I'm sorry, the side of the pencil, you're going to just shade across the back of your photo. Okay, so you're just coloring things in, and I'll show you why we're doing that in just a moment. So try to make sure that you've covered over the image. So I'm just going to check and make sure that I've covered the back of the image that I want to trace. Okay. All right, then we're going to flip it over onto our paper, and we want to place it where you want it to be in your drawing. And then you're going to use your pencil, and you're just going to trace over your different shapes and lines that you see in your image. All right, so first I'm just going to outline the rocks. And just kind of go slow with this. Make sure you're applying enough pressure. That way it will transfer to your paper. What it's doing is right now we're pressing that graphite that we colored on the back onto our drawing paper. And it should transfer an outline of our image. Okay, I'm going to also trace this cast shadow here. You could even go as far as to trace some of these shadows too if you want an outline of where they're going. So any lines or shapes that you see in your picture are fine to outline. All right, so now when I lift it off, I should have a very light, faint outline on there. I'll try to show you a little bit better with the camera. That just gives me a starting point for my drawing. Okay. So I can go back and kind of outline a little bit darker here just to make sure I have all these details transferred. And then after that, I'll start on my shading part of things. So I'm just going to outline a little bit more here. Okay, now I can see a little bit more clearly. So that's a good shortcut if you just need something to help you get started, okay? Now I would go in and look at my value scale, and I'm going to start with some of the darkest values first. So my layout pencil or my 4B pencil will get me some of these really dark areas that are almost black. So I'm going to locate, I'll start with the 4B first. That's this one. So you can start coloring in those areas that look the darkest. Okay. So take your time, kind of adding in some of your shadows. So I'm just kind of looking at where the darkest areas of my picture are first. This one has a little bit of a shadow over here. So take your time with this part. You want to really look closely and try to capture as much of what you see in the photo on your paper. For larger areas, I think it's easier to hold your pencil by the side of it like this, because it just makes it a lot easier to color in your shadows. Okay. So next I would go in with a lighter pencil. So maybe I'll move to the 2B next and try to get in the kind of second darkest areas of my picture. So the more kind of dark gray areas. So I'm going to try to color in some of what I see there. And we can kind of blend things in a little bit more after. So if you want things to look a little bit smoother, we'll be blending. Okay. So you can see just by adding in some of those different values, I have a dark area, I have kind of a gray area. The white of the paper is starting to create some of the highlights of the lightest area. So it's starting to look a little bit more three-dimensional. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue down the line of my value scale and try to find those places in my photograph that match and color them in with the right pencil. Okay. When you get all the different values in here, you can take your finger or you can take a tissue and you can start blending things together if you want to smooth it out a little bit. That's an option too. I have Q-tips to do that as well. But you can see just by creating some shadows, some highlights, and some midtones or the gray areas, my rocks are really starting to look a lot more 3D.